Okay. Okay, for some reason Zoom isn't allowing me to log on to my laptop, which is weird. So I'm just gonna turn on my camera if that's okay, and like show you guys the. Okay, hi guys. Just 1 second. Okay. I hope you guys can hear me. I hope this isn't too bad because for some reason I am not able to log on to my laptop. Okay, so in today's session, I'll be talking to you guys about poetry writing and how it's your personal growth rather than poetry writing. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Aziza. I have a page on Instagram by the name of @poetry by Easy. I write poetry on there, and in this session, I'm going to be talking about writing poetry and about Instagram poetry, which I started to do about 2 years ago, and now I have a good amount of audience on my page. And so, yeah, that's okay. Moving on. Um, I'm going to preface this by saying that I want this session to be very interactive. Please don't be shy to talk, to discuss anything, to point out anything. I'm here, I'm just like all of you. So, yeah, poetry. Guys, I want you all to take a second and think about what poetry is and tell me what poetry means to you. Anyone? Okay. Thank you, Amal. Anyone else? बिल्कुल ठीक है. बिल्कुल. बिल्कुल great. Oh my god, that is amazing. ऐसे है. And if I were to define, yeah, type of literature, which includes phrases and rhymes, a way of expressing one's thoughts and feelings onto pieces of paper. Yeah, that's absolutely perfect. Writing your heart out about what you feel. Exactly, exactly. It helps me understand my feelings better when it's in words. Exactly. Yeah, that's you guys are all right. मतलब बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हो आप सारे. And if I could put poetry in just lesser words, I would just say it's nothing but an expression of yourself as a writer, as a person, as a human being. Poetry is just an expression of yourself. So, moving on. What makes you a poet poetess? अब जब मैं आप लोगों से कह रही हूँ कि you're here to learn more about poetry. You are aspiring writers. तो जब आप लोग poetry और poet बनने की कोशिश करते हो या you're in this journey of becoming a person who is learning from poetry, you have to ask a few questions to yourself. And the first question is, what makes you a poet or a poetess? What qualities, what feelings, what ideas, kuch bhi, you have to ask yourself and you have to know where you're going with it. Okay? Ask yourself what feelings or aura drives you to write. You need to ask yourself what makes you write. What sort of feelings, for example, anger, sadness, happiness, peace, content, passion, aggression, what sort of these feelings help you write or channel your thoughts? What makes you want to twist your words? अब जब आप ये अपने आप से पूछ रहे हो, आपने ये understand करना है कि poetry isn't exactly like prose, right? Prose is where you are talking about a certain matter in a very simple way. You're describing something in a simpler way. But when you write the same exact thing in a poetic way, you'd find that उसके अंदर हर चीज़ जो है बहुत rhythmic है, beautiful है, उसके ऊपर layers and layers of depth हैं, and you would see that something so simple could be so much more. ठीक है? And I think that's completely beautiful. So you have to see what exact thing is making you write poetry. Twist your words. It's just an expression that I use because poetry is a twist of words. You're playing with them. Okay, so moving on. Okay, what sort of poetry do you like to read? This is a big question, and this is not exactly कि आपने अपने आप से ये पूछना है कि what sort of poets do you like? You have to ask what sort of feelings do you like to read about? What sort of scenarios, what sort of stories, plots? Are they about love? Are they about happiness, about sadness, about betrayal? What sort of feelings do you like to read about? Do know that these questions help you identify what sort of a poetic journey you're on. Okay? Okay, next up is what sort of ideas do you want your poetry to be about? Like, dekha jaye to all of these questions make sense, right? They're like, all of them are the same. Okay? And in this one, you have to see कि आप कौन सी ideology follow कर रहे हो when you're writing about something, when you're talking about something. You need to ask yourself that. Which sort of moments bring poetry? Ask yourself कि कब दिल करता है पोइट्री करने को, कब दिल करता है लिखने को, बैठ जाने को और सोचने को. Ask yourself. These are the questions that you should be asking yourself in your solitude. No one should be asking these of you. ये आपके अपने personal journey और personal identification की एक तरह की, it's like a guideline for all of you. So just make it very simple for yourselves and just cleanse yourself in these questions and find these answers. As a writer, I would say that everyone has unique and distinct writing styles. Every one of you, okay? And when you're on the journey of looking for those, searching for those writing styles, then you have to discover them on your own. But you can use some very useful tips that would help you write, okay? So I came up with a few tips that helped me write. I'm gonna jot them down for you. Pick out verses from your favorite poems and write them down. अब इसमें आपने करना ये है कि you read any poetry, any sort of poetry daily. Read one poem from anywhere. It could be anywhere, okay? And just pick out the few lines that you like. अब जैसे we're aspiring writers. Me myself, when I'm reading someone's work, there is a particular line जो मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा hit करती है, बहुत ज़्यादा उसकी strength मुझे feel होती है. ठीक है? Maybe others might not have felt it. Maybe the writer did not write that line with such depth, but it related to you. And you have to pick it out because that would help you identify what sort of feelings, what sort of words which synonymize feelings, what sort of things help you identify कि आपको क्या अच्छा लग रहा है in this poem. ठीक है? And this is also a really cool idea for like saving really pretty lines in just one notebook. I do that. It's really fun. Describe any random picture with any metaphor, simile, or analogy. अपना camera roll खोलो, उसमें जो सबसे पहली picture आती है, just take it out and just use it and define it. कि इसमें क्या feelings inculcated है. Talk about the colors in there. Talk about the hues of sunlight if it's a golden hour picture you took with your friends. Or just open like an old album, photo album, आप अपनी नानी या दादी की pictures देख रहे हो and just make a story out of that. Describe what's going on in there in your own aura, in your own feelings. Okay, this is something that I do a lot and I think writers should do it since it's really fun, okay? And it's not at all weird at all. So, ye dekho. Talk to yourself while standing in front of the mirror, by looking at the walls, by staring at a painting. But we all probably do talk to ourselves. लेकिन देखा जाए कि when I say कि in the context of poetry, what you have to do is talk to yourself in a tone that brings poetry. For example, if I would be talking to myself right now, I would say, the sky is ablaze with the many colors that I hold in my fists. Take care. And I just said that out of nowhere. That doesn't have to make sense. That doesn't have to make any sort of sense. But it's something that felt poetic. It's something that felt poetic. You talk to yourself and you would realize a lot of the ideas that you're saying are amazing because they're coming from you. And just write them down instantly, or socho ke, oh my god, this is something that I could expand and make into a poem. I just got an idea, I just got a revelation. Okay, explore feelings behind colors. I think colors hold a lot of emotions and we just ignore them just because they're colors and we just see them. But I think agar aap uski depths mein jao to they're a story on themselves. Every color makes you feel something. That's the same case for artists, and many of you who do art would realize कि जब आप कोई अच्छा color blend करते हो with watercolors or with acrylics, you realize that this color speaks to you. Okay, and this color just feels really, really deep to you. Write about that. Write about what this color made you feel, what this shade made you feel, what a particular filter made you feel. Write about it. Okay, moving on. The next is discovering your poetic devices. Poetic devices is basically the way you portray your poetry, in which formats and uh, basically which formats you portray your poetry in. The first one is prose poetry. Prose poetry is something between prose and poetry. I've read it a lot. Internet पे आराम से मिल जाती है. Search it. It's written in sentences, sort of things. और इस तरह आप अगर इसको जब पढ़ते हो तो you would feel that it's not exactly prose. A prose के अंदर, like I said before, an idea would be written in a very simple way, in a very simple form. But when you write prose poetry, that same exact idea would be twisted, would be dense, would have better imagery, would have the better description in which the reader would relate to what um, he sees in the poem. And that's what makes the poem complex. Poetry is complex, and we all know that. It's more complex than prose. Free verse poetry. I do free verse poetry. Free verse poetry literally has no bounds. The length of the verses can be short, they can be long, they could be anything in any which way that you want. It's the writer has autonomy over what they want to do. And at the same time, you have to see कि आप अपने काम के अंदर rhythm ला रहे हो जो poetry में होता है. Because if you write free verse, in some cases it happens के वो prose लगनी शुरू हो जाती है, like everything feels like a sentence. And that's where you draw a line, where you say कि free verse is where you're writing in verses, but they're not exactly in rhymes, or they don't have to be like इतने syllables इस line में होनी चाहिए और फिर अगली verse में इससे कम होने चाहिए, like in haikus, etc. etc. Do know that जो मैं यहाँ पे examples दे रही हूँ of poetic devices that are very common with Instagram, because this session is about Instagram poetry as well, and we'll be touching upon that, and fusion poetry. Instagram जितने लोग use करते हो, I think fusion poetry का तो सबको ही पता चल गया होगा. So अब देखो, fusion poetry is something that I will be touching upon later because that is a separate slide. Okay, next is epistles. Epistles is forms, a poem in the forms of letter. अब आप इसको इस तरह देखो कि when you read a letter, a love letter from the 1950s or from like an era जिसके अंदर एक war के अंदर एक soldier था जिसने अपने beloved को लिखा, you would find them so attractive. You would find everything, the imagery, the feelings so attractive. So epistles is something very personal because you're writing the poem in the form of a letter. You're writing to someone, ठीक है, and about what you feel. And it just gets really personal just as that. I think epistles are extremely beautiful form of poetry. अब मतलब इसको आप उर्दू में लिखो, इंग्लिश में लिखो, फ्यूजन में लिखो, बहुत क्यूट होती हैं. ओके, मूविंग ऑन. टिप्स फॉर एस्पायरिंग राइटर्स. मैंने इस पूरी प्रेजेंटेशन के अंदर बहुत सारी टिप्स ऐड किए हैं. आई विल बी शेयरिंग दिस प्रेजेंटेशन ऑन गूगल क्लासरूम, तो आप लोग आराम से पढ़ लेना इसके अंदर से जो भी आपने यूजफुल लेना होगा. सो एनीवेज, this is one point that you all should live by. You're all aspiring writers, ठीक है? You all should live by this. Write only and only for yourself and never ever for others. You are a writer. Your ideas are yours to own. Your words are yours to own. They are no one's property. They are yours and your words own you. So you write only for yourself. Don't ever think कि मैं किसी और के लिए लिख रहा हूँ या मैं ऐसे फील कर रहा हूँ कि आप लोगों ने बिल्कुल ऐसे, एक सेकेंड, आई एम सॉरी, आप लोगों ने ऐसे बिल्कुल नहीं फील करना कि for one reason that someone provoked me to write. There is one thing as such called inspiration, and you're writing for taking something inspired from someone, but then there's one thing जिसके अंदर आप करते हो where you're really writing just for yourself. You need to realize all of your words are yours, okay? And you shouldn't be writing for others, or like आपको ऐसा लेना कि if you're posting on a blog or of some sort, you're not posting for the blog, you're writing for yourself. You're just posting so that people could read what you wrote for yourself. Own your work. It's yours. Okay, this is a pro tip. It works a lot with writers. You should write about things that are only true to yourself, feelings that you have experienced. There is such that you write fiction, but अगर आप fiction भी देखोगे तो fiction is very much inspired by yourself. Okay, I just want to say कि मैं सारे questions ना end पे सारे answer करूँगी, भेजते जाओ बेशक, मैं सारे answer करूँगी, don't worry. ठीक है? Yeah, let me get back to what I was saying. You are talking about feelings that are entirely true to yourself. So आप देखोगे कि every word knits itself into a beautiful poem all by itself. Try doing that. Try writing about feelings that you've experienced. Read a lot of poetry. Okay. Poetry पढ़ने से poetry बहुत अच्छी होती है. It's like हमें कहते थे ना बचपन में कि इंग्लिश अच्छी करनी है तो इंग्लिश की किताबें पढ़ो, उर्दू अच्छी करनी है उर्दू की किताबें पढ़ो. It's the same case. If you read poetry, you would understand how to write poetry in the best possible way. Because जब आप पढ़ते हो आपको realize होता है कि oh, they use this metaphor in this way, they use this simile in this way, they use this analogy in this way. It's so nice. You pick out stuff from it, you learn from it, you get inspired from it, and you build your own poem. You realize structures, rhythms in just a poem. Okay? So read a lot of it. And I think a good site to read poetry on is poetryfoundation.com. It's very fun to find contemporary poets on there. So yeah, go on there. Write with a clear mind. This is very important. I can never ever write when I'm anxious, or when I have an assignment to do, or when I have something on my mind that's just bugging me. जैसे मेरा दिमाग clear होता है, I write in a better way because you don't feel distracted. Clear mind hoga तो your poem won't feel distracted like it's leading off to somewhere else. Okay, this is a very important point for all young writers. अपने one-liner ideas को वहाँ मत छोड़ दिया करो. One-liner ideas like the one I just said earlier, okay, the sky was ablaze with the colors in my fist. I think that was the one. So yeah, इसको अगर आपने इतना छोड़ दिया ना, it's nice to listen to, it's nice to read, but don't you think an idea should be more than just that? Poetry should be elaborative, should be not as long as मतलब इससा नहीं कि आप उसको लिखते जाओ, but it should have some context to it. Okay? Write more, मतलब one liner से expand करो, अपने आप को limit ना करो, because you guys don't have a limit. None of you do. You're all so capable, you have no idea. Okay, this is also very important. Poetry doesn't have to be sad poetry. I love writing about happy poetry. I love writing about happy poetry since when people read happy poetry, they would feel happy. You write about sadness, and that is beautiful as well. You mold your feelings and your ideas. ठीक है? I think that's a beautiful way of expressing what one's feeling. But when you think कि आप happy होते हो, तो आपने उसके बारे में poetry लिखी है. Try writing about something really happy, something content, something peaceful, with solace, with serenity. Just try. Okay? Don't limit yourself to anything. You can do a lot. Okay, I think I've been speaking a lot. Find your true voice by reading through multiple poets. ठीक है, अब this is really important since जब आप काफी सारे poets पढ़ते हो, आपको पता चलता है कि आपकी poetic voice क्या है, मतलब what theme it follows. सही है ना? Read a lot of poets. It helps you a lot. I hope I'm not boring you guys. Okay. I'm just gonna pause for 1 second. I'll be back in like just 1 minute. आप लोग सारे एक काम करो. Just in the chat box, just write something that you could expand into, like an idea or a theme that you could expand into a poem. अभी तक जितना हुआ है. See, I'll be back in a minute and I'll read your chat responses and then we'll talk about it, okay? I have half of the presentation left, just by the way, if that's okay. Hi guys, I'm back. Okay, Khatija Hassan has sent in something in the group. Wait 1 second. Okay, yeah, you guys get to see my face as well. Okay. You are that one relic of my distant past, among the sundry I have lost, outgrown that I wish to hold in my hand again. That is something so beautiful. That is, oh my God, guys, you guys are so talented. Okay, Amal B. Sometimes when you read poems of a certain poet, your writing gets influenced by it, and it looks as if you're trying to copy their style, but you aren't intentionally. How do we prevent this from happening? Amal, I'll answer your question at the end, if that's okay. I'll answer all of your questions, don't worry. Okay. Is it okay if I go on with the rest of the presentation? Okay, great. I hope you guys can hear me. Okay. Poetry for Instagram. अब हम आते हैं the other half of my presentation. आप Instagram पे poetry करना चाह रहे हो and you just started to like developing those feelings कि अब मैंने Instagram पे page बनाना है. I want to showcase my work to the world. Beautiful. I am proud of all of you who already have pages and are working on that and who also want to start working for it. I couldn't be more proud, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So here it goes. Through Instagram, you get a good audience. Well, that's true because Instagram के ऊपर हमारी age के बहुत सारे contemporary writers हैं, and then there are people who just enjoy reading poetry, and it's very accessible. And you also see कि आपके कितने लोग आपको follow कर रहे हैं, कितने लोग आपको like करते हैं. It's a very accessible page since a lot of people own an account on it, and it's very easy for you to search different writers as well. So one thing is very important, Instagram ke upar writers community is very wholesome. We all would love to welcome new writers on there at any point in time. I think is session ke andar bhi there are a lot of my fellow writers, and they are the best of the best. I could not agree more. मेरी इनके साथ दोस्ती भी सिर्फ poetry के through ही on Instagram, and we all are here to be there with you. Okay. Fusion bilingual poetry, the emerging IG trend. अब fusion poetry, I think आप में से कितने लोगों को पता है कि क्या है? Before I actually start with it. Do any of you know what fusion poetry is? Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. So a lot of you do, which is great because Instagram ka ye bahut zyada emerging trend hai, and a lot of poets are doing it, and it's so good to see that. Fusion poetry is a mix of English and Urdu. You write poetry in both English and Urdu. Although आपने notice किया होगा कि उर्दू poetry के अंदर there are शेर जो verses के form में होते हैं, a pair of two verses. But in fusion poetry, you would have noticed that there's no such boundary. You can write in whichever way you want. It's mostly free verse. I've seen people doing free verse. I myself do free verse. And so लगता है कि यही सबसे ज़्यादा आसान है करना. और देखा जाए जिस तरह कि हम era में रह रहे हैं, we all are like we're all living in either English and Urdu and sometimes in the between. And when you write something that is very pure to you, तो fusion very वो हो जाती है आपके साथ, बहुत pure हो जाती है. Just because we're living in an era where English and Urdu are intertwined with each other. और मान लो कि उर्दू से खूबसूरत ज़्यादा लैंग्वेज कोई नहीं है, तो it just adds beauty to your words. Okay. ऐसा है कि I added a piece of my fusion poetry and I would be reading it out to you so that you guys know what sort of tone or इसको इस तरह कह सकते हैं कि किस तरह blend होती है English के साथ उर्दू, because जब blend होगी तो उसके अंदर खूबसूरती आएगी. So I'm just going to read it out. 4 अल्फाज. Merely linear as I diverge. अम्मी के सख्त हाथ की पर का खौफ नहीं. ये नरमी 20 साल का नमक चूम चुकी. सुधर जाओ, खौफ नहीं. ये ना ममता ना ही मोहब्बत. God built me a stage to cry my performance. You enter just before the climax. खौफ नहीं. ना ही ठहराव ना ही जुस्तजू. ये मेरा खस्ता ज़मीर. Yeah, that's it. So this was a part of one of my poems that I've posted on Instagram. It's called Char Alfaz Ka Nasha. Do check it out if you want to, puri poem. So what I was trying to say over here was कि किस तरह आपको like आप किस तरह उसको blend कर सकते हो, and how everything has a tone on its own. Poetry has a tone, guys. So you have to find that tone for yourself. What tone is it for you? Okay? Because you're all unique writers, and I think that's the way it would work best. Moving on. Tips. मुझे तुम लोगों को tips देने का बहुत मजा आ रहा है because tips really do work. These tips work. मैंने use किए. मैं आप सबको बता रही हूँ कि ये tips काफी काम करती हैं. I started writing on Instagram about 2 years ago. I had about 50 followers for the first few months, ठीक है? And उसके बाद when I started doing things according to these tips, I saw कि लोग ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा आपको follow कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? So this is for your growth. जब आप किसी पोइट्री को पोस्ट करना चाह रहे हो अपने पेज के ऊपर फॉर योर फीड, आई थिंक इट्स मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट इफ यू पोस्ट समथिंग ऑन ए प्लेन पेस्टल शेडेड बैकग्राउंड, ठीक है? अपनी पोएम्स को उस पर टाइप करो सो दैट इट लुक्स नीट, रीडेबल फॉर द रीडर. रीडर जो है ना, उसका ये मसला है कि we're all humans, हम लोग को जो आए कैच करती है ना, हम लोग उसको पढ़ते हैं. तो जब आप अपनी पोएम्स को फॉर्मेट करें ऑन इंस्टाग्राम, यू हैव टू फॉर्मेट देम इन अ वे दैट द रीडर्स आई वुड कैच इट एंड दे वुड वांट टू रीड इट. सो चूज समथिंग दैट उसका बैकग्राउंड इतना ब्राइट ना हो ताकि यू नो दे वुड बी थ्रोन अवे एंड दे वुड हैव टू लाइक फोकस ऑन द वर्ड्स कि क्या है, समझ नहीं आ रही, ठीक है? चूज समथिंग दैट्स प्लेन और पेस्टल शेडेड हो सकता है, could be baby pink, baby blue, कुछ लाइट सा, could be gray, could be a nice yellow with black font उसके ऊपर. Okay, when you're making a writing account, you have to choose a very distinct username, ठीक है? So that people can remember it, ठीक है? It's easier this way since जब कोई आपका काम किसी के साथ share करना चाहे, for example, people are standing in a group or in corona times they're just calling each other on Zoom, etc, etc. Okay, anyways, when they're discussing about you, so they can, when they say your username ki like, oh, this is dash dash writer or iska ye account tha, matlab, for example, I'll take my account, it would be easy to say poetry by AZ, ठीक है? के ये एक account था, इसका username मुझे याद है और मैंने लोगों के साथ शेयर कर लिया. Otherwise, they would be like busy looking for your username. If it's too complex, if it's too long, if it has a lot of words or letters, try to make it small and try to make it easier for the other person to read. If you choose to post pictures of your handwritten writings, take the pictures with a neat background and good lighting. Make sure the lighting is good. It's very important that you take your pictures aesthetically. Aesthetic में आ जाता है कि you have to make them pleasing for the audience that you're posting it for. ठीक है? ताकि जो लोग देखें उसकी आंख ठहर जाए उधर, वो कहे कि मैंने इसे देखना है, मैंने इसे पढ़ना है, मैंने देखना है कि इस पे क्या लिखा हुआ है, ठीक है ना? It's really important in the way you take your pictures. I have a few examples on that. जो next slide पे फिर मैं आपको दिखाती हूँ. Add aesthetics to your page. Post pictures of nature, art. It's very important. Or if you feel like you don't want to, that's completely fine too. But if you can, do go ahead with it because it's really fun to make your account stand out. Or basically, I was reading up on the Instagram algorithm. They said that between plain posts, if there's one that stands out, it attracts a lot of the audience, which is really good. Try not to write your lengthier pieces in the caption. The reader may lose interest. Yeah, this is really important, guys. कि जब आप लिख रहे हो, आपकी जो lengthy poems हैं, उनको caption में मत सारी डालो because people don't want to read captions. If it's on a post, if it's on swipe on Instagram, it would be easier for the reader to read. So yeah, that's it. एक और है. Follow a consistent theme. Don't overdo your post. देखो अगर आप कर रहे हो ना, अब इसका एक एग्जांपल ये है कि if you have a writing account, don't post like एक पोस्ट के अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा bright reds थे तो अगली पोस्ट के अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा bright blues है, ठीक है? Something that doesn't go well with it. You would feel कि कोई चीज़ कलर मैच नहीं करी, कुछ हॉच पॉच लग रहा है. मतलब अगर इस तरह था तो फिर एकदम से एक और कलर ऐड हुआ and that looked really weird in the post, ठीक है? Or if the picture that you were using in the post was too much, like it had a lot of objects in it, जिसके ऊपर मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा, और उनके colors सारे distinct थे, they weren't theming, they weren't edited in a good way. So the audience that would come to your account might not be attracted to it. You have to make your page attractive for your audience. You're writing poetry for yourself, but since you're showing it to an audience for your own growth, you need to make it attractive. Okay, examples of poetry. अब ऐसा है कि poetry writing on Instagram पे जब आते हो तो मैं अपनी ही examples दो आपके साथ share कर रही हूँ. They're short poems. I'll be reading them out. I hope you enjoy it. Okay. Okay. The first one is called Cypress Lies. I just posted this a few weeks, I think a few days back. So I'm just going to read it out. Cypress lies. Cypress lies as he lays asleep. You think you can easily believe in the one you love. You set your foot in the soil, but as you see, the earth is china clay. It breaks and you fall. He sleeps knowing you're awake, and it breaks as you fall. A song sung to yourself. You hope your eyelids drop heavy into snore. Cypress lies. Where it's sore to touch, it is salt. To the truth that loses shade as you stroke it, the wind is the one that carries it all. Cypress lies. You're awake in the mind of another who is asleep. You think you can easily believe in the one you love. Yeah, that was it. Okay, I have another poem as well. Okay. Okay, this is also a shorter one, and this is a fusion poem. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Okay. So I gave you an example of an English poetry, and then there's this fusion poem. Okay? I'm gonna start reading it. Humming on with sweetness, we sit with the ladybugs, setting aside the dhoop that might burn us. We sit in the wind that is too warm for our skin. हम जलते नहीं मगर क्यों? क्योंकि चाहे दोपहर की ये लू कितनी ही कोई गर्म हो, आज मौसम थम सा गया है दिल में. खामोशी sweeps us up with itself, and we reach a place where sukoon spells itself out for us. आज महक सी है. In the summers that we might build ourselves into, आज कह दो कि सब ठीक हो जाएगा. गर्मी में अल्फाज ठंडे हो तो गर्मी गर्मी नहीं. Yeah, that was it. So, okay. So these were examples of poetry, one in English, one in Urdu, Urdu-English fusion, okay? And you guys could see that there is a specific tone for fusion poetry. If you're coming on Instagram, do try fusion poetry. It's really fun. It's really fun to write, and you guys would love it. Moving on. Example of IG feed aesthetics. अब Instagram के कुछ मैंने accounts की screenshots लिए हैं feeds की, writing accounts की, and I'm gonna show it to you. ठीक है. The first one is Poetry by Hussain. He has a very digital artistic feed. मुझे इसकी बहुत पसंद है, and you could notice that everything is rhyming in a very cute way. ठीक है, in a very, you know, क्या कहते हैं इसको, digitalized and contemporary way. सही है. The second one is by Maro. अब आप notice करो मारो की साड़ी में there are white background के ऊपर लिखी हुई हैं, but then there are two posts जिसके अंदर उससे pictures डाली हैं. You could do that. You could definitely do that. ठीक है, इसी तरह की उसकी theme देखो blue और उसके अंदर match करिए. So it looks nice like that. So when you're going forward with choosing a picture to post with, choose something that will match your personality and your feed would look themed. Okay, the next we have is notes.2.u. She also has a very structured feed. You could see that her posts are alternative, her picture posts are alternative, and her white posts are alternative. ठीक है, तो इसके अंदर देखो कितनी attractive लग रही है उसकी feed. ठीक है, I personally love this one. ठीक है, pictures are all so aesthetic. ठीक है, try something like that. Okay. And then there is this page Merced's words, he is using black and white pictures. If you could see how the theme follows itself, इसके अंदर जो red है वो इसके pink और इसके red के साथ कितना अच्छा coincide कर रहा है. There are whites and everything just feels really attractive. ठीक है? And then lastly, this is my feed. It's not the best, I would say. I mean, मैंने जितने लोगों की देखी हुई है Instagram writing accounts की, they are so beautiful. They've worked really hard for them. But I also use the general white background with Times New Roman font, and yeah, that's it. Okay, and I add some pictures of flowers because I like working with dried flowers per se, or flowers. Okay, and I have a typewriter, so I sometimes post with it. अभी जो सारे हैं ना accounts, मैं सही बता रही हूँ, these are amazing accounts, and I will also be mentioning accounts that you should follow if you want to get inspired by Instagram poetry. They're all amazing. Okay, and these are feed examples. So we're gonna move on. And okay, I would like a volunteer to read this out. If you can see the screen, पता नहीं तुम लोगों को screen भी कितनी साफ नजर आ रही है. So, is there a volunteer who would like to read this out for me? There's a message that I will bring. Anyone? Hello, koi hai? Or should I just read it myself? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna read it and then I'll ask someone else to read it as well. Could you see if it's clear? Okay. So, don't ever pressurize yourself. Guys, you are writers, okay? Instagram writers. Don't ever pressurize yourself. You need to know कि आपको pressure अपने आप को करके कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. So what if you haven't been able to post for a while? So what if your followers are leaving and your posts aren't getting enough likes? So what if you're not happy with what you posted and decide to take it down? These things don't define you. These things don't control you. Guys, these things don't define you as writers. Okay? These are little ups and downs that a writer experiences. Never ever feel bad over them. Okay? You guys are writers who had the skill, the talent to showcase their feelings through words. I don't know if a lot of people can do that, but you guys had the drive to do that. You are a beautiful, talented, and accomplished individual and an amazing writer at it. Remember, it's your safe space and it has to be that way. Your Instagram writing account is your safe space. Any form of public account that showcases your talent, your art, is your safe space. Don't listen to anyone who gives you bad remarks or a bad critique, because you guys are, that is just for your improvement. कोई अगर critique देता है ना तो उसको सिर्फ हिस्सा लेना कि अच्छा चलो ठीक है, that's what they think, but as a writer I could improve myself with the points they have given me. Okay, don't ever feel कि आप लोगों के writing जो है it's not worth it. All of you are worth it. You're all beautiful writers. Please ये कहीं लिख लो, कमरे में लगा लो, आते जाते उसको पढ़ो, ठीक है? Because I myself in the past year used to feel really demoralized जब मेरे followers कम हो जाते थे या मेरी likes कम हो जाती थी या मेरी reach उस तरह नहीं थी. I have changed myself and it is for the better. Your mental health is more important than anything. So realize that you guys are amazing writers who are working so hard. Okay, don't ever pressurize yourself. Anyone who wants to read it so that you guys are reminded again and again how important this is? Okay, sure. Just unmute yourself and read it.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Don't ever pressurize yourself. So what if you haven't been able to post for a while? So what if your followers are leaving and your posts aren't getting enough likes? So what? If you're not happy with what you posted and decided to take it down, these things don't define you. These things don't control you. You are a beautiful, talented, and accomplished individual and an amazing writer at it. Remember, it's your safe space and it has to be that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Larev. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for reading it so well. Guys, please इसको याद कर लो. मैं बता रही हूँ, मैं अभी ये पूरी presentation Google Classroom पे upload कर दूँगी so that you guys could take screenshots of it. मतलब, make it your wallpaper, make this message your wallpaper or anything, post it, whatever you want to do with it. But you guys have to realize that you guys are amazing individuals who are able to write and express themselves as writers. I mean, I am so proud of you, each and every one of you. Okay, towards the end of this presentation, I would just like to point out there are amazing writers जिनको आप follow कर सकते हो on Instagram. If you could just screenshot this, just screenshot it. ठीक है, these are one of my favorites. I think yeah, just screenshot it. ठीक है, और भी बहुत ज़्यादा हैं. I think I haven't mentioned all of them because I follow a lot of them and they are amazing. I think I could post all of the list एक दफ़ा on Google Classroom. But yeah, ठीक है, these are just some. These are like एक छोटी सी percentage. There are a lot of other writers. ठीक है. Can I move on? Okay, guys, I'm moving on. Okay. At the end of this session, I would like you all to take home a writing prompt and I want you all to write on it. Okay? It's a 3-word prompt. You guys have to navigate these words, write what you मतलब आपको क्या लगा कि आपने ये जो words सुने आपको कैसा feel हुआ? So I'm just gonna bring them one by one. Beaches, breathing, sunsets. Write a poem around this. It could be very long, it could be very short. Send it to me. I would love to read it. I would love to see your talent. ठीक है, मुझे ज़रूर भेजो. ठीक है, and this is your sort of like a homework. I don't want to call it a homework because I would sound like a teacher and I'm not a teacher. I'm just a person, just like you, just here to share my experience with you all. Okay. I would post this on Google Classroom as well. Don't worry. Okay, bus khatam hone wali hai, and then we're gonna move on to the question answer session. Noor Nahar ki ek bahut achhi book hai. I don't know if you guys know of this book of hers because uski ek poetry book hai na, Yesterday I Was the Moon. She has another one. It's called Find Your Voice. It's really good if you want to find your poetic voice. बहुत अच्छी है. I finished that I think in early January. मैंने purchase की थी तब. ठीक है. It helps you navigate a lot of things while writing poetry and while discovering yourself as a writer, as a poet. Do check her out. It's Find Your Voice. इसकी ये I think available है on Liberty Books really easily. So yeah. If you ever have any questions other than the ones that you will be asking me right now, ठीक है, मुझे आप लोग मैसेज कर सकते हो on @poetrybyac Instagram पे. Do check out my work as well if you haven't. And I'm always here to give you the support you deserve and the love you need. Any sort of things. ठीक है, your writings need to be out there, need to be shown to the world because you are talented individuals. Okay. Okay, hi guys. So I'm gonna do the question answer session now. Just gonna open the chat box. Okay, great. Okay, Baha, I think you sent a, is this a question? How you perceive the word? Okay, well, I think जो मैंने शुरू में पूछा था. Expressing your emotions, ठीक है. Khadija Hassan, I think your question is the first one. How did you start writing? Were you self-taught? I am extremely self-taught, guys. मेरे में कोई खास बात नहीं है. मैंने कहीं से सीखा नहीं है. I never took literature. I don't have literature as my major. I am a pre-med student in A levels. I'm in A2. ठीक है. I have been writing for, I think I've been writing since 6th grade. There was this book in my course, but we never actually had the time to read it. It was called The Dragon Book of Verse. I think many schools had it. तो उसके अंदर मैंने ना क्लासिक पोइट्री पढ़नी शुरू की थी, एंड इट वाज रियली फन टू रीड. सो उधर से मेरी पोइट्री के अंदर इंटरेस्ट डेवलप हुआ. बट आई स्टार्टेड राइटिंग myself on ideas and topics, and then, well, you see, अब मैं इधर तक आ गई हूँ. Yeah, I think that answers your question. Oh, guys, you can be self-taught. You don't have to like have poetry lessons, or you have to be like a literature student to know poetry. Okay, you just read poetry. आप poetry इधर उधर से पढ़ोगे. If I were to give you like examples of poets who I read Noor Nahar. Okay, you would relate to her because she's a Pakistani and she's a Muslim. She writes about really, really pretty things and really pretty feelings. Okay, and then after that, I do read a lot of Sylvia Plath. Okay, her poems are very complex. Although I like Tyler Knott Gregson, his poems are really beautiful. You could ask me for a list of poets that I like to read other than Instagram poets. Okay. Okay, I'm going to move on to Baha's question. Can you force yourself having a poetic mind? Like, does having a connection with nature help? It does. It does. If you're sitting in between flowers or in your garden or just looking up at the sky, it makes you come into this sort of like क्या कहते हैं इसको, state of mind where you can easily define or describe something through poetry. Okay? I don't think I don't think you can ever force poetry. You can't. I don't think you should try and force poetry. Let poetry come to you. Okay? But working towards knowing how to write it or discovering poetry is not exactly forcing. मतलब जो मैंने शुरू में आपको सारा समझाया. So does that answer your question? Okay. Amal Tanveer, you had a question, right? Sometimes when you read poems of a certain poet, your writing gets influenced by it, and it looks as if you're trying to copy their style and you aren't intentionally. How do you prevent this from happening? Okay, guys, it's very important to draw a line between copying and getting inspired from a poet. Okay, you read someone's work, you write uh, that certain line down that you really like, that certain idea. ठीक है, अब आपको ऐसा करना है कि even if it's their style, inspiration लेना और copy करना में पता चलता है इससे कि when you're copying, वो ऐसा लगता है कि बिल्कुल if an audience that follows that person जिसकी आप लिख रहे हो, जिसका आपने अगर पोस्ट किया आपको भी वो फॉलो कर रहा है और जिससे आप इंस्पायर होकर कर रहे हो, they might find the similarities between it could be problematic. What you have to do is you have to find ideas, मतलब जो आपने पढ़ा, how did you relate to it, मतलब what did you feel. You don't have to exactly see what the reader is talking about. You have to see what you want to talk about through this idea. I think that helps with inspirations. I think personally. ठीक है. I know copying intentional नहीं होती in a lot of cases. ठीक है, guys, it's pretty normal. ठीक है, but getting inspired, I would suggest if you are inspired by someone and if you really liked it, if you're posting a poem उस तरह की, then just mention them कि आप इनसे inspired हुए हो. The writer would feel really nice जिससे आप inspired हुए हो. ठीक है, and they would really love to read your work. Oh, I inspired this person. इतनी छोटी छोटी खुशियां ना किसी को देना बहुत अच्छी बात होती है. ठीक है, always mention your inspirations. People aspire to like, they look up to writers. ठीक है, अगर आपका कोई writer आपका role model है and they mention their inspiration, they would love to go and read it. They would love to see कि कौन है, किस तरह कर रहा है, क्योंकि you would want to be you would want to be a writer like that, right? I hope that answers your question. Okay. Okay, Sarah, I think you have a question. So you were just saying that. Okay. Sarah, that's so sweet of you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, Allah, मुझे ना समझ नहीं आ रही तुम लोग बड़े cute हो सारे. Um, if you guys have any more questions, ask in the chat box or unmute yourself or ask. ठीक है. Um, जिस तरह मर्जी. Because this session is, I think I've taken like a lot of time. Yeah, I took like half an hour over what I was supposed to do. I'm sorry. Guys, any more questions? Oh, thank you so much, Lare. Thank you so much. So I think that's the end of this session. Thank you all for attending, and thank you all for coming on here and hearing me rant. And it was very, very wholesome of me to share my experience with all of you. मैं ये PowerPoint अभी upload कर रही हूँ, अभी जाके देखो अगर